Hi, this is Jordi V, and today I'm going to show you how to make a track in the style of Bicep is Glue. If you have never heard this track, I highly recommend you give it a listen on YouTube or something. It's a really great track, quite minimalistic, but succeed to evoke some feeling of nostalgia. Also being a club-friendly song and inspiring also some kind of euphoria related to the early times of the rave scene. So the main aim of this tutorial is not to recreate the track, neither to copy Bicep's style. They are obviously quite original and they have been around for a quite long time, but rather to be sharing some of the tips and tricks that we can replicate or analyze that might help us in the future to within our personal compositions. For instance, how to layer drum breaks, how to get a vocal sample, how to add extra percussion to your drums, and etc. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So I've started this track with the drum break. Let me go here and solo my audio track and let you listen to it. Let me select like 4 bars. So let me show you the original sample. So this break is from the Pack White Label Warehouse Rave. You can find it, I think it's by Sample Phonics. You can find it on Splice also. So what I did here is I added the drum break and I've decided to shop it around and rearrange it. So I've come up with these small slices, like half bar slices from the drum break, and I repurpose it in order to come up with this pattern. Later, I've decided to add an EQA to cut some of the low frequencies, a reverb to make it sit well within the stereo field. Also this drum bass to add a little bit of crunch and a little bit of distortion to the percussive elements, to the percussion and the shakers, the hi-hat, etc. And finally an auto filter that might help me later with the arrangement part in order to cut some of the frequencies and give the drum break some movement. Once I had that, I've decided to add another drum break and I just looped this section from the shaker. As you might see, we have a long shaker sample. So I just looped this part and let's listen to it. So here we are cutting the low frequencies and we are adding some auto pen to make the sample go from the left to the right. If we play them both together, so once we have this kind of background level for the breakbeat, we need to layer it with some extra drums, some kicks and snare. Mainly we use an acoustic like one shot to make them more present within the mix and make it more beefy, I guess, or more like complete or like more strong. So I've decided to do that and I came up with this kick pattern which is basically following the same kicks within the drum break. So let me solo the kick. Here we have a simple kick, nothing, no processing on it, just simple kick pattern. You can obviously see I'm following the kick pattern from the drum break and making and layering it just to make it more strong. I've did the same with the snare. Obviously, as I said, you need to look on Splice or on your sample library for a more acoustic snare to layer it and give it that authentic and groovy and like organic feeling, I guess. So yeah, once I had this backbone to the track, I've decided to come up with a small percussive element Super simple, but will add some groove to the track. So I have this conga verb sample from Om Unity's sample pack. I highly recommend this pack. It contains a lot of one shots, great ones. So I've used this. I added some reverb to the track, a little bit of ping pong delay, and an auto pan again to make it go from the left to the right and make it sit within the stereo field. So if I play my drum elements, you can hear the reverb and the ping pong delay. It give it a lot of groove and make it more spacey, I guess. So yeah, that's it for the drums. Let's move to the chords. So for the chords, we are in the key of G minor. That's the bass, sorry. And I am playing this chord progression in the key of G minor. Let me solo it here. Give you a listen. You can see the chords. And I purposely made the notes here a little bit shorter to give them that groove and anticipation or some kind of tension, so you are looking for the next chord. Obviously, you can make them more on the grid, but I've decided also to make them more human by displacing and playing around with the notes positions. And I'm playing this on Serum on a pad called Rich Wave. I don't know from which pack or presets this pad is. Rich Wave. Yeah, it's from Outrun episode 1. It's synthwave preset kind of thing. I also added some EQ to cut some of the low frequencies since they are reserved for the bass, and some of the high frequencies since we don't need it to be that present on the higher frequencies. Sorry. And finally, I'm adding some reverb. So if I solo my pad section here, you can hear that silence, that anticipation and tension. So yeah, perfect. We will need this pad section to be set in the background. And once we had that, I came up with the bass part just by, sorry, that's not the bass part, just by copying the root note of the chords, and I'm playing it on this Serum synth again. Just a simple fat sub bass. We are cutting some of the high frequencies since we don't need them with the sub bass. And I'm rolling, as you might see here, the high frequencies. I'm also rolling out some of the super low frequencies since it will muddy up our mix. And I'm adding a utility finally to make the bass sound mono, since we need our bass to be monophonic while the other elements will be playing on the left and the right, and this way we have a better mix. So if we play this with the drums, super basic but quite effective. So once we had that, I moved to the vocals, and if you listen to the original track or the track Glue but Bicep, it has a super prominent vocal sample which carry the track and make it super unique. So I've browsed my library and I find those two samples, vocal ones. I forgot from which library they are, but let's listen to them for instance, and maybe I will Yeah, they are from Mikey Blue Vocal Sample Pack. You can find this on Splice also. So let's listen to the two vocals here. I really like this one since it's filtered. There is obviously some echo, some chorus on it, and it sounds super dirty, super muddy. It's kind of a sampled one, so I love it a lot, especially within the context of the track. Processing wise, we have a Valhalla vintage verb here. Nothing crazy, super basic. We have an EQ3 to cut some of the low frequencies, and I'm not using this ping pong delay, so I will delete it. So if we are trying to stay like faithful within the original context of the track, they are using a gated sample. So I've added this serum. If you are not familiar with how a gate works, maybe you need to check a tutorial on YouTube or something. But the basic idea is you come up with some kind of MIDI notes on a separate synth that will dictate when the sample will be playing and when it will be off. So as you might see here, we have a couple of notes. So when we are playing this B3, the sample will be triggered, but when there is a silent, it won't be playing. But I ended up not using it since I thought it's not working within our original track. So let's... You can hear that kind of sidechain and pumping effect depending on the notes played within the gate, I guess, trigger. So let's deactivate that. So that's it for the vocals. The final element is this. Let me look for it. This is the fat sub. Yeah, this is this arpeggio track. So I copy pasted the chords and I'm adding an arpeggio from Ableton Live here. I'm also adding the pitch plugin, playing the pattern or the chords an octave higher. We are using this plug harmonical from Serum again. It's my favorite synth, I guess. An EQ8 to cut some of the low frequencies and a reverb. So if we listen to what we have here. And let's listen to it within the context of the track. Yeah, it sounds perfect in my opinion, and just another element to make the track more interesting. And finally, I'm using this reverse crash again from Cymatics to handle the transitions. And we have this kind of dub siren that I'm using here to add some of that authentic feeling to the rave scene. You can use any other effects. You can find a bunch. And as you might see here, I'm rolling the low frequencies. I'm adding a reverb and quite a bit of a delay. You can also hear for the reverb, I increased the decay time to give it that texture. So that's it for the track. I hope you learned something from this, especially when it comes to layering your breakbeats. Again, if you are not familiar with the track, I highly recommend you listen to it and let me know what you think. I will be trying to make more tutorials in the future. Obviously, I was on some kind of hiatus. And yeah, take care and let me know again in the comments if you want me to cover any other artist or anything. I will be trying to respond to each comment. So yeah, peace.